Watching Superskum, Carlos Reilly. I'm here with Blind Guardian's own Mr. Frederick over here, charge of the drums, the percussion duties, and flutes and bagpipes. Of course, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Right now, I wanted to start off with the new album and just basically, it's been a very long tour and it's been a lot of dates, a lot of countries, a lot of places that you visited. So aside from the regular tour questions, I wanted to focus specifically on the illustration of the album. And we were talking before, you and I, and you were explaining a little bit of the story, but if you can explain the fan, because there is a bridge between Imagination from the Other Side and the new album. Of course, we're talking about Beyond the Red Mirror. The illustrator, though, like I was asking you about that before, Felipe Machado Franco, he's the illustrator, but then at the same time, it's just beautiful imagery, and metal fans, we love that. Course, and we love the story as well. So if you can give us a little more background into it and how it actually ties and bridges over with the other album, Imagination from the Other Side, that'd be great.
Yeah, so you mentioned already the bridge to Imaginations. That's how the whole story starts, or started in the past. And it stopped at a certain point where we didn't know what is going to happen, how the main character, the boy, would decide if he would face his challenge. So in Beyond the Red Mirror, we learn he actually did not. So the world he's living in and the parallel world that is hidden behind mirrors, they're both facing their end, and so he's giving a prophecy and departs on a journey to find the last portal into that different world, and which is the Red Mirror. And so, this is kind of the story, his path and his journey through
being
those.
The chosen one.
Exactly. Yeah, and Felipe actually tried to illustrate those words, like the story is basically made up by Hansi, who of course also wrote the lyrics. And in the yearbook, you can read a lot of the background story, of his background thoughts and everything. So. That was also the information that Felipe got from us, and that what he was in cooperation with us tried to kind of come from the words and from the music. Then he found the images matching those epic story. Yeah.
And in my opinion, he did a wonderful job. Those are just beautiful illustrations. I mean, the picture discs, the vinyl, they look amazing, of course, with those illustrations. And the yearbook, like you said, that special edition and that special version, they're beautiful as well. That one is actually clocking at about 76 minutes. So it's the longest version that there is. And then tied to that, we have this new album. You have 3 choirs, right? Budapest, Prague, Boston. 2 orchestras, Budapest and Prague as well. Several editions. We have that yearbook one. Do you think that's the most ambitious project right now from Blind Guardian, up to date?
Yeah, I would say, of course. It grew even more by the time that we were producing and working on it. So the songwriting was kind of early starting already, and we had to, during the production, this is the reason for the many choirs and many orchestras. Normally, one should have done the job too, but they were not available at a certain point that was necessary in our production to go on with recording orchestra, and they were not available, so we had to find an alternative. That's why we have 2 different ones. And with the choirs, we had the feeling of needing a English-speaking, native-speaking choir for the more exposed parts, the more outsticking ones. So
first
just
time
the intro.
For the band?
And of course
with an American choir.
Yeah. So we all did before. It was in Europe, and we just missed that typical English native speaking sound. So that was actually very important. And then since we had the other ones already, of course, we piled them up over each other and had like this massive, big choir.
Yes. The American English, we're not going to leave the British out because then they're going to get pissed off at us. So, for all those English purists out there.
All right.
Is anything in the works for an album track, video? Nothing so far?
No. We just decided to go pure for the audio recordings, and then just having our very intense tour so far. I think also the biggest one we had, with the most dates, and like Europe was already kind of almost 3 months in a row. Then we had already Japan and Australia, and then 1 month of South America prior to the US shows that we're doing right now, US and Canada. We don't want to piss off the Canadians either, right?
No, I always include them. North America, and you
Yeah,
did
North
Mexico,
Right.
and then you came up here to the U.S. You've been in Canada. You're going to Canada 2 days from now,
Right.
from today. You also did an extensive tour in Brazil.
Yeah.
It's been a while, and of course, nobody has to fact check me on this one because I'm sure I'm wrong, but not a lot of bands get to do such an extensive tour in Brazil. So
Yeah.
the fan base has to be phenomenal. How was a little bit of that tour? Because he was, how many dates? It was more than 7 for sure, more than 5. I know I saw a very long list of cities in Brazil, and that's
Brazil,
huge.
Yeah, Brazil was alone, I think, 7 shows, and then Argentina, Chile,
Chile and Costa Rica. Yes.
Yeah.
And then you did Mexico. And
Yeah.
how's the fan base compared over there in South America, and
they're-
Brazil? You know, I know they're crazy. and
They're
we
really
love
crazy.
that.
They're crazy. They're different, and I would not dare to say who's the best audience and all
No,
that.
they're
I just saying
different, but-
they're really different. They're really passionate. They're very familiar with the lyrics. They know
Yes.
all the songs and all the words and all the melodies. So it's
Yeah.
definitely fun playing there. And yeah, it's just
They
it's
like to sing the guitar solos,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
They
yeah.
like to hum them.
That too.
Basically. So good,
Yeah,
good,
it's
good
always
fan base.
it's always a very loud experience, and sometimes to the point that you cannot hear your in-ear monitoring
wow.
anymore because they're really, really loud and
Oh, yeah,
overlaying that.
It adds to the intensity of a metal show,
Yeah.
of course, I'm sure. Now, even though we're talking about Hansi here, and I know you can't talk for him, but it's related to the band, of course, he has been saying before in the past that the band is working on that orchestral project inspired by the Dwarfs, and that is Countryman, your Countryman author, I think it's Marcus Heitz, right?
Yeah.
So even though it's not supposed to be, at least from the information that we have, a power metal album or any type of metal album, more orchestral than anything else, it will be released as a Blind Guardian album. So far, that's what it's been said. So how's this project coming along? What is it about? If you can give the fans a little bit, don't ruin any surprises, of
No.
course. I know you won't.
Actually, you kind of said the most important facts already. So it's definitely not a power metal album. It's not including the band at all. We're just composing for an orchestra. So it's actually more comparable to a score, or like a movie soundtrack or something.
Okay.
So that's kind of the sound you can expect. And then Hansi is singing with that orchestra.
Okay.
So, but it definitely sounds like Blind Guardian still in the end. Like the composition, everything is Blind Guardian. And the band is working on that project for 13 years or something.
Wow.
And it always was kind of something in the what happened in the background, and the metal productions were always more important. So they had priority. It was still now the case. I know last tour we already talked about the orchestral project to be soon released and soon be done and everything. And we actually worked at the same time on both branches of that Blind Guardian tree. Meaning when we had orchestral recordings, we already had sessions for the orchestral project as well. So that is growing in the back, and you will be surprised and hopefully positively surprised with the result in the end, even waiting
Good.
maybe after all those years. But I'm pretty sure it will pay off in the end.
Is that project intersecting in any way with Andres' project, lifelong project of making a rock opera? He always wanted to do one of those for 2 of Tolkien's albums and all that. Did he give up on that one? I know, sorry you have to talk up for him, but did he give up on that and it ended up being this orchestral album, or can the other one also happen?
I think it kind of, for now, it switched to that. So it's a very ambitious album, of course. It's a concept album, as you already mentioned, with Marcus Heitz as a co-inspiring author. He parallel works on a book based on the same
a lot of books, yes.
Yeah, I mean, like for that story.
That one specifically.
So it's like a cross thing. We use the idea of the story for our lyrics, and he uses the same thing for his book. Then, so we have a cross artistic thing going on there, which I find very interesting. So it is a concept album, of course, and this is definitely something that is demanding all the time
It's a lot of work, yeah. A lot of
after
effort.
the regular metal production, of course.
And so the idea behind releasing it as a Blind Guardian album is because it's a band effort, or at least, for the most part, it's just a conceptualization from what the one band would like to do. Even though, is everybody involved, or is it just Hansi, or is it just everybody's writing music for it? How is the division of labor here for this project being divided?
For orchestra one,
Yes,
still.
for the Doors one.
Yeah, like when I came into the band, already back then, basically all the songwriting was already done. So I had only a little impact on the actual songwriting for that one. But for the current album, for Beyond the Red Mirror, I read that once. It's one nice.
I would have
nice
been a good name too.
Yeah, well, I actually read that once. Like, that's actually a good name too. So Red Mirror, I had already my part in songwriting, and I came up with the song that actually made it then on the album. So if the orchestral project is very successful and we are happy with the result and everything and with the reception of it, there's definitely maybe in the future room
Special tour.
for me to. I would love to actually songwrite for an orchestra too. Like, it's a very
it
rare,
wouldn't be more
unique
of a tour, it'd be more of a
occasion.
show. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
absolutely.
but it's always in the gaps between touring and the metal songwriting, of course.
Very little gaps.
Yeah.
Of course. Now, moving along, and I know, this question is asked many different times to many different musicians and bands, but the band actually states that they've been greatly influenced. And you've been with the band for 10 years. You've been part of the process as well, recording, playing live, everything, songwriting. So in that sense, the influence that the band has stated throughout the years, it ranges from Genesis, Queen, Fate's Warning, Sabotage, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, of course, Jethro Tull, even your fellow countryman, Halloween, of course. And basically, what do you take from those bands? I mean, what is the actual influence? Because we always discuss other bands influencing other bands, but how? I mean, it just progression, sound, style,
Okay.
what is it?
As I feel for Blind Guardian, all this big influence happened in the past for the forming the primary band sound when it was more like a speed metal band. That's what I think. And or when what you name for Queen, for instance, all this immense choirs piled up on each other and like having this massive choirs. So this was a general thing. But as I feel the band, ever since I would say maybe Imaginations, they found their own way of also developing their own sound, and there's not that much influence from outside coming into the band. Of course, the current productions of those days, they always have an impact, but I don't think that it's like that much noticeable anymore, so that you can name it. Okay, this riff, for instance, is like from this and this band or something like this. It's just like let's say we experimented with some sequencers. Sounds like damage sounds and stuff on the new album, which has not happened before, which is maybe due to some industrial bands we were listening to. But it's more like you hear a sound and you like it, and then you kind of play with that new element. And so it's really hard to name. And we're different characters. We all have different favorite bands that we listen to. I, for instance, was listening a lot to Porcupine Tree during the whole production, like all this material, and I personally would say there's not a big reflection of that you can hear in the. It's just like I enjoyed listening to that, and maybe somehow the fanciness of some drum fills, or I don't know, maybe that found its way into the album, but definitely not on purpose, and not that actually I or all the others either. We are not aware of the influences.
Being influenced doesn't mean you have to sound like another band,
Yeah.
which a lot of people equate it to that, but that's not necessarily the case. Well, since 1984, it was actually Lucifer's heritage, the first name, and then it was kind of the funny story that it's always mentioned in the media that the demos were being mixed with the with the black metal albums at the record store, so you change it.
Sounded too
Blind
evil.
Guardian, yes, and then since 1988, onward, you've been Blind Guardian. We're talking even when Hansi was the bass player, then just focusing on vocals, and he was of course a singer and the bass player. We've had a list of compiled. Well, not we, you guys had so many different session musicians, live musicians, studio musicians. Even though you kept, a lot of the core, 10 studio albums, we have 2 live albums, box set, compilations, covers albums. In that sense, acoustic songs, singles, 11 singles, 2 demos, 8 videos. Hansi's done guest vocals for about 23 different bands, as I counted the last time.
Yeah, you count a lot. I just figure.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a 31-year career since the very beginning of the band. But you have been with the band for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, personally, as it relates to you, how would you describe that experience? Those 10 years with the band, musically, or as a musician, and personally?
Personally, it's kind of easy to explain. It was my favorite band when I joined, so I was very, very lucky to get the job and to have this very lucky coincidence, which of course was more than just luck. It was actually crazy enough.
From fan to band member,
all the coincidences back then. Like if I look back, it normally would not have happened, but it did happen. So I don't doubt it, or I don't question it anymore. So this, of course, was very fulfilling, and having found so nice people to spend my professional life with, and they're all really, really nice and down to earth, and so that was one very, very important thing to learn. And even when you also have the comparison to other bands about the tone, speaking to each other, and I don't know what happens there. So I'm really glad with my band members here. Music-wise, of course, you always think you're kind of not at the top, but there's not much room left what you can learn. But then doing all the studio productions, recording, I learned so much about precision, about power, about energy, about maybe also getting. It's kind of comparable to an actor getting into this live, raw energy that you need also for recordings, and the different impact on the sound that it has in the end when you're feeling the special vibe and then having this extra power. And it's then I hear when Charlie, for instance, then saying, okay, now we got it, now it's raw, and now we're rough and everything, that's it's just a thing you have to learn too. And of course I was focusing a lot on metal for the last 10 years, no doubt about that. But I also enjoyed having still my Pink Floyd cover band, which is very dynamic and slow, and it's just a different kind of music.
Absolutely.
And this is something I really, really enjoy as just doing something different and enjoying other kinds of music. And when I'm teaching, I do it anyway, every style that students ask me to, or
you teach back home, or you do actually do the clinics around the tours as well? Have you done that before?
It's more, I have a drum school at home, and I do some online lessons. So
perfect.
Actually, I have a student in Canada whom I'm going to meet in person when we're touring
there. You go. You're meeting
nice.
A student.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's always fun. Yeah. Hey, diversity. Why not? Of course.
Sure.
It keeps you focused, of course, and as a musician, you need that as well.
Yeah.
Moving along into the future, I know it's a question that you guys get asked all the time, but future plans right now, aside from the Dwarves album, not that it's going to be called that, but just referring to it that way, any live album in the works or thinking about it? I know there's more touring coming up, and you even have dates into the festivals of next summer, of course, but any future plans aside from finishing this tour right here?
Yes, of course. So the orchestral album you mentioned already, and you mentioned the live album. Because right now on this tour, we're recording every show.
No way, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
And so every audience, every night gets the chance of finding their way into the new live album.
Okay.
After more than 10 years, we thought it's about time to release a new album with also different lineup. So I'm, of course, a change than Barend is now new in the band.
Very new, but yes.
Yeah, not very new, but like in comparison to the last live album,
of course,
that's what I mean. Like it's like rhythm section, 2 new members, and so this is definitely something that is worth to be presented. And yeah, so we record all the shows and pick our best performances and also the best performances from the audiences. So
wow, that's good. And then are you planning on just mixing it up and having different songs from different shows, or are you just going for one
no.
specific show?
No. We
out of the whole tour.
Yeah, we have.
Like it's
the
a
last
great
live
way
album.
of doing it. I mean,
Exactly.
you include so many fans, and everybody's going to be happy.
Exactly.
Well,
either you had to release more live albums, or you just want to reflect the whole world tour with the one, and this is what we are about to do. So we pick, hopefully, from all the different regions we played, and we wanted to represent the different audiences and different feelings and different sounds, maybe. And so so it's kind of a reflection of our tour, and so we want to have as most people in there as possible.
And are you planning to have the concert filmed as well, or is just basically we're talking about audio recording right now? Is it going to be a combo of the audio and video? Or?
For now, we only plan on the audio material, but we of course are filming and videoing as much as we can. And yeah, you never know when you need that additional material, and when you need it and you don't have it, it's just a shame. So why not record and have it already when you need it?
Absolutely. Well, Fredrik, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you being here with us and giving us a little bit of your time.